Daddy, am I broken? Those 4 words, soft and tearful, whispered by my 7-year-old daughter, Emma, as we sat together under the harsh glow of the emergency room lights, are words I will never forget. Her little fingers were swaddled in white gauze, blood seeping through the bandages. The doctor had just stepped out to grab more supplies, leaving the room filled only with the sound of her sniffling and the dull hum of the overhead lights. "No, baby," I told her, struggling to keep my own tears at bay. "You're not broken. The world just gets it wrong sometimes." I never thought I'd have to explain to my daughter why an adult would hurt her on purpose. And I never expected my position as Deputy Commissioner of the County Public Safety Office to become relevant in protecting my own child from such cruelty. My name is Daniel Rivera. 3 years ago, I lost my wife, Hannah, to an unexpected aneurysm. Since then, it's just been me and Emma, my bright, beautiful daughter who faces each day with a courage that humbles me. Emma was born with cerebral palsy, which affects her mobility and means she uses a wheelchair most of the time. Despite her physical challenges, she's always been creative, empathetic, and full of light. We moved to Willow Creek Estates last year, drawn by the neighborhood's reputation for being family-friendly and its accessible design. For a while, it seemed like the right choice. The neighbors brought over baked goods and offered friendly hellos. Mrs. Yates next door quickly became Emma's after-school caregiver, helping fill the gaps when my job kept me late. But everything began to change 6 months ago when Judith Crawford was elected president of the HOA. Judith, a retired real estate broker known for her platinum blonde hair, designer suits, and signature string of pearls, had run her campaign on a promise to restore community pride and raise property values. What that really meant was targeting anyone who didn't fit into her rigid mold of suburban perfection. First, it was the passive-aggressive warnings about the wheelchair ramp I'd installed for Emma, labeled an unauthorized structure. Then came the citations about Emma's garden decorations being unsightly clutter. Even her brightly colored wind chimes were deemed noise pollution. I tried explaining Emma's condition, providing medical documents, and citing the ADA guidelines. But Judith's response was always the same, a tight-lipped smile and the words, "Rules are rules, Mr. Rivera. No exceptions." I should have pushed back harder. Maybe if I had, the unthinkable wouldn't have happened on that awful Tuesday in April. That day, I was called away unexpectedly to deal with a gas main break downtown. Before I left, I told Emma I'd be home late and reminded Mrs. Yates that Emma was excited about painting her nails after finishing homework. Nail art was one of Emma's favorite things, one of the few activities where her limited motor control didn't hold her back. It was around 3:30 p.m. when my phone rang. Mrs. Yates was on the other end, her voice shaking. "Daniel, you need to come home. Now." "It's Judith." She heard Emma. "There's blood." I didn't need to hear another word. I dropped everything, left my deputy to handle the situation, and sped home, my heart racing in my chest. When I flung open the front door, the scene stopped me cold. Emma was curled into herself on the living room couch, sobbing quietly, her hand wrapped in a bloody towel. Mrs. Yates sat next to her, looking pale and horrified. "What happened?" I demanded, rushing to my daughter's side. Mrs. Yates's voice cracked as she recounted the events. I stepped away for just a momento. The bathroom. Emma was on the patio painting her nails. When I came back, Judith was there. She had your toolbox open. She was using pliers on Emma's fingers, saying the nail polish violated HOA rules. She said Emma was making the neighborhood look messy. I felt my blood run cold. "She did what?" I could barely get the words out. "She ripped 2 of her nails halfway off," Mrs. Yates whispered, her voice breaking. Emma was screaming. Judith just kept saying she was enforcing the rules. I turned to Emma, my heart breaking. "Is that true, sweetheart? Did she do that to you?" Emma gave a small, tearful nod. She said my fingers were dirty, ugly, that they broke the rules. I wanted to scream. But first, my daughter needed care. I rushed her to the emergency room, calling the police on the way. The doctor who treated her was gentle but visibly shaken by what he saw: 2 fingernails partially torn from the beds, bleeding and painful. He documented everything carefully, taking photos and making sure we had the medical records. That's when Emma, through tears, whispered those words that still echo in my mind: "Daddy, am I broken?" The responding officer at the hospital was initially dismissive. Sounds like an HOA dispute, he said. Not usually something we get involved with. I quietly pulled out my county ID. I'm Daniel Rivera, Deputy Commissioner for Public Safety. This wasn't an HOA dispute. It was an assault on a disabled child, and I expect full prosecution. The officer's posture shifted immediately. Yes, sir. I'll need formal statements. The following morning, Judith Crawford was arrested at her home. Witnesses said she screamed at the officers, "Do you know who I am?" To which the arresting officer replied, "Yes, ma'am. You're the woman who assaulted Deputy Commissioner Rivera's daughter." News of her arrest spread like wildfire. Neighbors who had once kept their distance began stopping by to offer meals and support. Mrs. Patel from down the street, a retired nurse, volunteered to help with Emma's bandage changes. Mr. Johnson, who lived 3 doors down, offered to mow my lawn every week. Most surprising of all was Judith's husband, Alan, who came to our home in tears. I never thought she was capable of something like this, he said, unable to meet my eyes. I filed for divorce this morning. I can't be married to someone who would hurt a child. The HOA board convened an emergency session and voted unanimously to remove Judith from her position. The new interim president, Mr. Gonzalez, suspended all active violation notices against our property and proposed revisions to the bylaws to ensure protections for disabled residents. But the most incredible response came from Emma herself. Just 3 days after the attack, as I helped her get ready for bed, she looked at me with those wise, steady eyes and said, "Daddy, I feel sorry for Mrs. Crawford. She must be really sad inside to be that mean. Happy people don't hurt others." The criminal case moved swiftly. Judith Crawford was charged with felony assault on a minor, child endangerment, and violation of the ADA. She tried to argue that she was just enforcing community standards, but the judge shut her down. Community standards, he said, do not justify cruelty or abuse. Judith accepted a plea deal requiring her to perform community service at a center for children with disabilities, attend anger management courses, and abide by a restraining order keeping her far from Emma and our home. The civil lawsuit that followed brought a sizable settlement which I placed in a trust for Emma's future care. But even more valuable than the money was the shift it sparked in our community. The HOA now operates under a leadership committee that includes parents of disabled children. They created a neighborhood support program offering assistance with yard work and home maintenance for families in need. Their first project was building a sensory garden in the community park, complete with raised planting beds and wheelchair-accessible paths, a place where Emma could participate fully. Alan Crawford, Judith's ex-husband, has become one of Emma's biggest advocates, volunteering at her school and working tirelessly to promote accessibility throughout the neighborhood. 6 months have passed since that horrible day. Emma's fingernails have mostly healed, though one bears a faint ridge that will always serve as a reminder. But what's more visible is the joy she radiates as she teaches younger children how to plant flowers in the new community garden. "Look, Daddy," she called out just yesterday, holding up her dirt-smudged hands, her nails painted bright yellow to match the sunflowers they were planting. "I'm growing happiness." That night, as I tucked her into bed, Emma asked, "Daddy, are you still mad at Mrs. Crawford?" I considered my words carefully. "I'm still angry about what she did to you, but I'm grateful for the good things that came after." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "Like the garden, and my new friends, and the nicer rules." "Exactly like that." She smiled and whispered, "Sometimes bad things have to happen so people realize what needs to change." I sat there quietly reflecting on her wisdom. My 7-year-old daughter, teaching me about forgiveness, resilience, and the true meaning of community. Today, when I review policies in my role as Deputy Commissioner, I ask myself one question: would this help or hurt someone like Emma? Because rules without compassion aren't justice, theory, oppression in disguise. Our HOA still sends out notices, but they now offer help instead of threats. They celebrate diversity instead of punishing it. At the grand opening of the sensory garden, Emma cut the ribbon with her healed hands while the community applauded. Mr. Gonzalez presented her with a plaque that read, "For showing us that a true neighborhood is built not on rules but on kindness." On the walk home that day, Emma turned to me and said, "Daddy, I think we fixed what was broken." She was right. Our community had once been just houses. Now it's a family. And my daughter, the bravest person I know, helped make it so. Judith Crawford thought she could break my daughter. She didn't understand that Emma's strength wasn't in her hands, it was in her heart. And hearts like hers don't break. They shine brighter, grow stronger, and teach the rest of us what it really means to be human.